Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al, week 6 on DraftKings. I've got a Monday Night Football single game showdown video for you. We're going to talk about everything that's going to go on between the Dallas Cowboys and the Arizona Cardinals, two really fast-paced teams. Obviously, there's been some injuries involved. Dak Prescott going down with that compound fracture that's put him out for the entire season, but not all is lost. Andy Dalton is going to be the quarterback moving forward for the Dallas Cowboys, and while everybody seems to remember him from Cincinnati, and because clearly that's where he spent his entire career, he now has a different set of weapons around him. So judging him based on what he's had the last couple of seasons with the Bengals, with a terrible offensive line, with injured weapons all around, AJ Green, who could not stay on the field the last 2 seasons, and really not a lot of weapons to utilize behind that terrible offensive line. People have this bad taste in their mouth with Andy Dalton, but I think that this Dallas offense, while it will not be the same that it was with Dak under center, it's still going to be a very formidable offense for anyone to deal with. We saw that late in the game when Dalton came in and hit a couple of deep shots to Gallup. They have a good enough offensive line, even though it is banged up from what it normally, from when it's at full usage and full strength, but the amount of weapons that this offense has, this fantasy carnival has, is absolutely fantastic. And Arizona can be a team that's going to push them with the horizontal raid offense. Yes, that is a little bit of a slight on the way that, Cliff Kingsbury runs this offense right now. I'd love for him to challenge downfield a little bit more than he has, instead of just throwing screen, 3 yards in a cloud of dust with Kenyon Drake. They can actually do things against Dallas because Dallas has struggled against perimeter wide receivers. So CeeDee Lamb, Cooper, Gallup, everybody in play here. And then on the other side of the ball with the Cardinals, Hopkins and Kirk and Isabella and even Drake and Edmonds, the tight end Arnold. There's a lot of different ways that we can go with this game. So we're going to go through and we're going to break this down. Let's bring up DraftKings real quick. I appreciate you guys watching once again. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, click something, leave me a comment down below telling me who you think is going to be your favorite captain on this slate. Whether you're playing 1 lineup, 3 lineups, 10 lineups, 150 lineups, which captains are you kind of centralizing your play around? For me, I centralize my captains around usually running backs and wide receivers. They have the biggest upside. They have the most reasonable ceiling, a reasonable chance for a ceiling that's 35 plus fantasy points. To get quarterbacks usually don't have that. We do see that for guys that are rushing quarterbacks. So somebody like Kyler Murray can get you to that point because of the floor that he brings on the ground. You look at how many yards he's had every single week and 5 rushing touchdowns so far this year. He has not really done it with the passing game because, as I said, it's just the way that they run their offense. A lot of short things, a lot of dinks and dunks, and then maybe a shot downfield to Kirk every once in a while, or Isabella once in a while. I'd like to see more variability with their attack to allow him to have the room, if they actually stretch the field a little bit like they should with this, supposed air raid offense. It's really the horizontal raid offense to allow Kyler Murray to do the things that Kyler Murray can do and these running backs to do what they can do. But he is a quarterback that has 30 point to 40 point upside, where most quarterbacks don't have that, at least not the ones that don't have the ability to add to their point totals with their legs. So I'm going to focus on guys like Ezekiel Elliott, like Nook Hopkins, who's seen a ton of targets, just an absolute ton of targets. And DraftKings, being full PPR the way that it is, you have a tremendous floor plus the opportunity for a ceiling if he can get loose on one of those plays down the field. We saw a 45-yard touchdown from him last week against the Jets. It's the Jets. So, hopefully they keep taking those shots because Dallas's defense has been absolutely horrific. We've seen one 30-point game from him. Outstanding. If you're going to use DeAndre Hopkins in your captain spot, you are going to tie him to Kyler Murray. We're going to go through on the Fantasy Labs Optimizer. We're going to build a bunch of lineups. We're going to show you the rules that you should be starting with. Those aren't the only rules that you're going to make on an optimizer. And I talk you through it in case you're building by hand right here, how to correlate your lineups as best as possible. Ezekiel Elliott has been, I've heard the word disappointing and I'm shocked. To be very honest with you, people said, man, I'm disappointed in what Zeke is. I spent a top 3 pick on Ezekiel Elliott this year and he's not doing anything. Well, CMC was the 1 pick. He's hurt. He should be back at some point, but he got hurt. Saquon Barkley at 2 is out for the year. Derrick Henry's doing really well. Joe Mixon's been kind of a disappointment, even with the increase in volume that he's seen around him. Michael Thomas has been out. Devonta Adams on Green Bay has been out. Miles Sanders has not been outstanding, at least not consistently. And then you have Ezekiel Elliott, who every single week just seems to get himself into the end zone and score you 20 to 30 points every single week. He's been consistent, and we haven't even seen a ceiling game from him yet. He does not have 100 yards rushing in any game. He has not gotten you the bonus through the air. He's received a ton of targets this year, which is mostly based on the fact that they've been playing from behind for the majority of their games. Weeks 2 through 5, they were behind like 10 plus points at times during those games. Against the Rams, it was a closer game. But like, he's leading the league in terms of inside the 5 or from the 5-yard line and in rush attempts, which is one of the things that I look for with running backs. I want to know that they have that touchdown ceiling, because that's obviously, he scored a touchdown. It's the most points you can get on any one play. He's getting those really, really high leverage touches on a game in, game out basis, like way more than anybody else, and on pace to break the amount that Adrian Peterson saw in the year that he won the MVP, where he had like 30 touches from the 5-yard line and in. Zeke has like 18 so far over the first 5 weeks of this season. So as long as this offense can continue to move the ball, when they get close, it's going to be the Zeke show. And if he busts one long run in any game, which definitely can't happen with the volume that he's getting, not only will you get the bonus, you're likely going to get multiple touchdowns. He is certainly a place that I'm going to be looking at captain and possibly trying to overweight the field, though that may be difficult to do. CeeDee Lamb has been an absolute revelation because of how they're utilizing the other wide receivers on this team. Amari Cooper has been the highest targeted wide receiver on this team. He's been very consistent on a week in, week out basis, which is very strange for me to say when Amari Cooper is the guy. Granted, he had the bad week when Bradbury was guarding, but that's not really a slight as much as it is when you have this many weapons. Why would you take the toughest route to completing a pass? They can just throw it to CeeDee Lamb. They can throw it to Schultz. They can hand it off to Zeke. They can throw it to Gallup on the other side. So against the Giants, wasn't shocking to see them go away a little bit from Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb was the beneficiary. Running from the slot, he gets a lot of easily convertible targets, but he also has big playability. Last 4 games, a 26-yard catch, a 43-yard catch, a 28-yard catch, and a 37-yard catch. So with the amount of volume that he's getting, 7+ targets in each of the last 4 games, we also have the upside of knowing that he can get deep down the field, whether it's on a seam route, whether they run him outside, or turning like a slant play into a 60-yard play is certainly in his locker. But the fact that they're just feeding this kid targets, we're getting a floor and ceiling combo out of him for a price that's seemingly a little bit too low versus guys like Hopkins and Elliott. If you want to go to Amari Cooper coming off of that game against Bradbury, I totally understand that as well. He is much better splits playing at home versus the road, but I don't think that has much to do with anything, but people are going to touch on it to reason and rationalize why they should go to him. He will see Pat Pete, but I don't know that that's that much of a detraction at this point. I don't know that we're going to see Peterson shadow Amari Cooper, and they have enough weapons that they can move them around as many places as they want to. It's just going to be a matter of, can Andy Dalton feed him the ball, or will Andy Dalton feed him the ball as often as Dak Prescott was through the first 4 games of this season with, what is that? 43, so that's 30 plus 23, 53 targets over the first 4 weeks, and then 4 in week 5. I expect him to see 8+ targets in most games this year, especially in games that are as fast paced as this one does project to be. I think the Cowboys will play a little bit slower with Andy Dalton at quarterback versus Dak, but not super duper slow. So as I was saying, any lineup that has Amari Cooper, we're going to have Andy Dalton in the flex. Any lineup that has CeeDee Lamb as captain, we're going to have Andy Dalton as a flex play. That goes for any single pass catcher that I'm going to play in the captain spot. And if you want to play the quarterbacks, typically I'll limit my quarterbacks to about 15% total of my captains. But with a running quarterback like Kyler Murray or the Cowboys quarterback, I will probably extend that a little bit. I might allow 25% of my total lineups to be captained by a quarterback, because as we know, over time, quarterbacks win about 15% outright of showdown large field tournaments. So sticking to running backs and wide receivers is usually your best bet. I am definitely going to be including kickers in those groups. So as I said, if you're going to build a quarterback captain group with, say, Kyler Murray in it, we're going to include one group where it's going to include at least 2 of his pass catchers. So let me do this the easy way. We'll go up here to Arizona. Might include Edmonds with as much as he's been utilized in the passing game. He's kind of being used like a Tariq Cohen in this offense, which is really bad for Kenyon Drake, or has been really bad for Kenyon Drake owners. If you want to include him in your Kyler Murray groups, I'm okay with that. I'm going to include Kirk in this. I'm going to include Larry Fitzgerald in this. I'm debating whether or not to include Isabella, but let's do it for the sake of this. And then Dan Arnold's been used enough in the games that he's been out there, especially in a game against the Cowboys, to be included in that. I will also be including Arizona's kicker in the quarterback group, because kickers scoring is correlated with quarterback scoring. If the quarterback has a big day, the team scores a lot of points. The kicker will also score a lot of points. Not all of them are going to be touchdowns, so you do have that possibility. And every single point that you score in Showdown is important. So at least 2 of those players, including the kicker in that group. I will also be building a group for Arizona for Dallas with Kyler Murray. At least 1 of every single offensive player on the Cowboys that I think is a relevant player. What I may also do is, if Kyler Murray is captain, I might decrease or down boost or nerf, however you want to put it, Andy Dalton. You just build a group into the lineup builder that says in Kyler Murray captain is in the lineup, then decrease Andy Dalton by 25%. You'll still get lineups with him in there as you move away from the actual optimal if you're building 150 lineups. And I do think that you guys should be learning how to mass enter games. Like if you're playing in the mini max, if you're not a high dollar player, if you're not a high stakes player, and you can't say I can't afford to throw $1,500 into a tournament, it's totally understandable. Nothing wrong with that either. But they do have 5 cent, 10 cent, 25 and 50 cent games that you can enter 150 lineups into and have a shot to win $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 for your 150 lineups for a very low entry fee to learn how to mass multi-enter things. So looking over at the Fantasy Labs optimizer, bring up the optimizer. We'll set this to 150 lineups. We're going to look at our settings. And as I said, I have some preset settings that I use. Hopefully you guys can see this. We're going to pair our captain QB with at least 2 of the wide receiver, tight ends, and kickers on the same team. We're going to pair our captain QB with at least 1 quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end from the opponent's team. Pair our captain wide receivers with exactly 1 quarterback from the same team. Pair captain tight end with exactly 1 quarterback from the same team. And I'm going to limit to at most 1 defense or kicker from the same game. This is a starting point. These are the 5 rules that I think you should be starting with. Anytime you're making showdown lineups, we'll apply those settings and we'll set the optimizer to start running our 150 lineups. And then that's not just going to be all that you're going to do. So I highly advise never to just jump on an optimizer, or jump to your whatever site you use, whether it's Rotogrinders, Daily Roto, Fantasy Labs, or any other, that you don't just run, we call them vanilla lineups. Just go to the site, click build 150, and think that you're going to print money. That is not how this works. You really have to manicure your lineups. You have to set rules for your lineups. As you can see, the first thing that we're going to do is check our captains. Ezekiel Elliott came out as our highest owned captain, then Kyler Murray at 24%, Andy Dalton at 14%. I don't want that much. So I'm going to set a maximum 15. I'm going to set 12% maximum for Kyler Murray. I'll set 8% maximum for Andy Dalton. I'll save those and I'll generate and I'll run again. There's a lot of massaging that you have to do. You're going to have to go through each one of your lineups. You're going to have to click on certain players to see when this player is the captain, what does the rest of the lineup look like? When Ezekiel Elliott is in the flex, what else do those lineups look like? And you're going to have to set rules and groups to make sure that you don't end up with combinations of players that you don't want. You're going to have to up boost certain players. You're going to have to down boost others. When Ezekiel Elliott's the captain, I'm probably going to want to up boost the defense for Dallas and down boost the defense for Arizona, because I don't want to see Arizona's defense. If I think that Ezekiel Elliott's going to have a massive game, then I kind of have to make sure that I'm not getting more negative correlation in those lineups with him. That is the way to win showdowns. That is how you need to attack it every single week. It doesn't mean that you're going to win every single one that you enter, but you give yourself the best shot at overweighting the field in terms of your top 5 percentile finishes, your top 1 percentile finishes. And then if that 1 or 2 plays happens at the end of a game, you give yourself a shot to come in all the way at the top of the list and bring down the big money. So I wish you guys the best of luck. Enjoy those 2 Monday Night Football games this week. Look out for another video right here.
He's a legend.